What's up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I have some good news and I have some bad news. And unfortunately for all of us watching today, the good news isn't as substantial as the bad news, and the bad news is pretty bad. The good news is that today I woke up and it was 57 degrees in Dallas, Texas. And for anybody who lives in Dallas or lives in the South, you know how meaningful that is, because it has been miserable here in Dallas the last few weeks. And for me to wake up to 57 degrees just filled my heart with joy, and I was so excited to put on this jacket and begin enjoying the fall weather. Now for the bad news. The bad news is that our government is a complete crapshoot, and today we're going to be talking about that. So let's get started. Now, it has been a while since I made a stimulus video, and that has been intentional. And really the reasoning why I haven't made stimulus content in a while is one of two reasons. Number one is that ultimately I want to build this YouTube channel. I want to grow this audience and the subscriber base and the view count of my videos. And I can't do that long term with stimulus content, because stimulus content is only going to last so long. So I have been veering off into other kind of business, wellness, entrepreneurship style videos, because that's what I ultimately want to do long term. So if you guys are interested in checking out those entrepreneurship videos, I post 7 days a week about business, entrepreneurship, how to start a business, and all those sorts of things. And so if you're interested in that content, definitely subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it, and it means a lot. The second reason why I haven't made a whole lot of stimulus content lately is because there hasn't been a whole lot of updates, and I don't want to be that YouTube channel that is making stimulus content for the sake of getting views and thus getting paid. I think that there are far too many YouTube channels out there that are kind of just feeding off of people's desperateness and needing information and wanting information, and thus they're kind of repeating information, they're not giving accurate information, and that's something that I never want to contribute to. I just want to give you guys accurate information and up-to-date info, and the fact of the matter is lately there hasn't been a whole lot of updates. But with that being said, we do have kind of two, I would say, fairly substantial updates that happened in really the last 48 hours. So the first thing I want to talk about is stimulus packages. So we really haven't seen any substantial legislation for stimulus since the CARES Act back in March, which was now 6 months ago, which is crazy to think about in itself. And over the last couple of weeks, the government has been on recess, and senators and Congress members have been back in their home districts doing kind of more local efforts rather than in Washington, D.C., working on federal stimulus packages. And so as a result, there hasn't really been a whole lot of progress in any front over the last few weeks. But this past week, they returned to Washington, D.C., and with that, they've returned to the process of negotiating and planning out the next stimulus package. And the first stimulus package to be introduced and voted on was the Republican-introduced bill known as the Skinny Bill. This was a $500 billion stimulus package introduced by the GOP, and this was kind of a more streamlined, less detailed stimulus package in comparison to the $2.5 trillion stimulus package introduced by the Democrats. I won't go over the exact details of the Skinny Bill because, quite honestly, at this point, the details are irrelevant because the bill did not pass. It only got 52 votes, which is far short from the amount of votes that it needed in order to move on in the legislation process. But that begs the question of what is going to happen moving forward. Are we going to get another stimulus package? And if so, when will we get it? Now, funny enough, this is actually something that I've talked about a lot in my videos, and I've gotten a lot of flack for it, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of hate comments for my stance on this subject. Now, this is just my opinion. I could, of course, be wrong, but I personally do not think that we will see a stimulus package in 2020. I don't think it will happen. I think that as the election is coming closer, we are now less than 2 months away from the election, Republicans are going to want to have their bill passed, Democrats are going to want to have their bill passed, and their ability to negotiate and willingness to negotiate is becoming less and less likely. This is because I believe that as the election is getting closer, these politicians are becoming more and more self-serving. The Republicans want to have their bill passed because they want to go to their Republican constituents and say, hey, look, we got this Republican bill passed. I'm doing my job as a politician. You need to vote for me. And the same exact thing can be said for Democrats. Democrats want to go to their Democratic constituents. They want to say, hey, I got this passed, vote for me, I'm a good politician. Whereas whenever both parties start kind of meeting more in the middle, it doesn't look as good to their base. And it makes the politicians look a little bit weaker in their stances. It makes their power of negotiations not look as impressive. I think overall, in the politicians' eyes, it becomes more advantageous for them to stand their ground, at least as far as voting goes. And I'm not saying that this is just the Democrats that are doing this or just the Republicans. I think both parties are doing it. But I do not think that we will see a stimulus package by the election, if at all, in 2020. Next is in regards to unemployment. So as you guys know, there was an executive order that was implemented a few weeks back that allowed for unemployment recipients to receive a federal unemployment boost similar to what we had been seeing back in the spring and summer. Now, back in the spring and summer, we saw a $600 per week unemployment boost on top of your traditional unemployment payments. And when this executive order went into action, it decreased that amount from $600 to either $300 or $400 depending on what state you live in. Now, the unemployment boost has only been active for a few weeks now. I think in the state of Texas, it's been going on now for 2 or 3 weeks. But unfortunately, in a lot of states, they are already running out of funds. In fact, as I'm recording this today, in the states of Montana, Tennessee, Texas, and Arizona, they have already announced that they have completely depleted their allocated funds for this unemployment boosted program, which means that if you live in these states, you will no longer receive the unemployment boost as of this week. The other thing is that if you live in a state that is still distributing the funds, chances are your state is also going to run out of funds within the next week or so. So it is currently expected that this unemployment executive order, the FEMA unemployment boost that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks, will completely run out of funds by the end of September, if not much sooner. Now, this is another one where I would be surprised if anything happens on a federal level with this unemployment boost until another stimulus package is passed. I don't see there being any sort of other executive order addressing the unemployment. I don't see there being any specific bill or a piece of legislation passed anytime soon that's going to address this problem. My gut is saying that the unemployment and the unemployment boost will not be addressed until the next stimulus package is addressed. And like I said earlier, I don't know if that's going to happen in 2020. This entire ordeal is incredibly frustrating, and it really kind of draws a light and a spotlight on my problem with government and my problem with politicians as a whole. Is I think that far too often politicians and the government is very self-serving. And the fact of the matter is, I think that the election is going to have a negative effect on whether or not stimulus package is introduced and passed within the next 6 weeks, because political parties are going to want to do what's best for their party rather than what's best for the American people. So it is incredibly frustrating and incredibly disappointing. Some of you guys may notice that typically on Fridays, I post a van build video. At least for the last 4 or 5 Fridays, I've been doing that. And it has been raining in Dallas the last couple of days. It's really actually been raining for like the last week and a half. So it's been really hard to work on the van, because what we need to do right now is requiring us to do work both outside the van and inside. So it's been really hard with the excessive rain. But there is a van build coming. It's not coming this week. It might actually not even come next week, because HP and I are going out of town next week, so we probably won't have time to work on the van. But we will resume normal van videos on Fridays once I get back from vacation, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys are interested in checking out my van build videos and all of my other business-related videos, I would greatly appreciate if you guys could subscribe, if you guys could hit that like button and hit that notification bell. And like always, I will see you guys in the next video.